All right. Hey, my friends, and welcome to today's episode where I want to talk about the concept of the law of reversed effort. And really, when it comes to OCD, anxiety, panic, and even chronic pain conditions, really how this works, in not in favor of the individuals looking to recover. And by becoming aware of it, a lot of times we can begin to understand how we're implementing it, and then more importantly start to realize that recovery in some ways is a bit of a paradox and a bit of it's kind of ironic, if you will. And I want to dive into all that. So anyways, before we go, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Matt Codde. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and the founder of Restored Minds. If you're looking for help on your journey to recovery, please check out the links in the notes, as we have some great resources for you. Join our free newsletter, and you can also apply for our program, Taking Back Control, as we currently have some openings for people to come in and work together with me and my team. Also, if you benefit from the show, please help us out by liking and subscribing and leaving a nice review on iTunes and Spotify, as it helps the algorithm and helps us get the show to more people. So let's talk about the law of reversed effort. Now, I first got exposed to the law of reversed effort in the book Self-Mastery Through Conscious Autosuggestion by Emile Kuay. And Kuay was a French psychiatrist, I believe, and pharmacist. Basically, he wrote this book, and he had this healing clinic in France. This is back in like the late 1800s. And what was crazy is he had like some crazy healing rate or success rate at like over 93% or something like that. I think I read, with all sorts of conditions that were healed. And and it was wild. Like people that hadn't walked in like 7 years walked again. And and he talked about healing from a subconscious level, and he talked about the law of reversed effort when it comes to healing. So the law of reversed effort is basically the idea that you willfully putting effort into something not being there oftentimes creates that, right? And that's the whole paradox of the reverse. So for instance, someone who is playing golf, and he uses this example and is thinking to themselves like, don't shank the ball, don't slice the ball, is more likely to actually create that thing because they're suggesting that to themselves. So their subconscious will literally swing the club in a way where the ball literally shanks and slices off, and so on and so forth. And it's the same with Dr. Daniel Wegner, who did his famous research in the I don't know how famous it is. It was famous to me because I thought it was so fascinating. So, but I mean, he wrote a book on it, and it's very fascinating. The whole research on the white bear effect and the ironic process theory that he published in the 1980s and 90s, where by trying not to think of a white bear, it paradoxically creates the thought of a white bear, and and the person experiences it more. So you start to like look at these things and realize that there's some aspect to the irony and the paradox of recovery that involves the more you want and the more you're willing, and the more you're putting your will for effort into trying to recover and to get rid of symptoms, you paradoxically seem to create more of them. The more you try not to have intrusive thoughts, the more you experience them. The more you try not to panic and not have sensations of panic, the more you create it. And so why does that happen, and what can we do about it? Well, it happens because we're focusing our attention on the very thing that we don't want, and thereby creating that thing. And because we become hyper aware to the presence of that, and we become very resistant to it, and the combination of hyper awareness and resistance really builds that pressure and tends to actually create it. So when you assume that recovery is the removal of the symptoms you don't like, what happens is you tend to focus on the very symptoms you don't like and try to get rid of them, paradoxically creating them, and then paradoxically moving recovery further and further away. When you understand, however, recovery is not the absence of symptoms, right? Instead, it's merely the state you achieve when your focus and attention and alignment and energy is all kind of in a homeostatic place. It's not that the symptoms are not there or there. It's that your perception and your beliefs and the way you perceive everything is in a different state where you see them differently. And you aren't reactive and adverse and resistant to it. That's really the key there. And so the law of reversed effort, this is why the more effort you try to put into recovery, the more effort you try to put into getting rid of your symptoms, the more effort you try to work at your recovery and work. The irony of all of that is that it ends up working against you. Because what I've found more and more about things like recovery from OCD and anxiety is, yes, there has to be some work put in on your end, but it has to be the right work done from the right place. And oftentimes it's way more work to do your compulsions and to do all the things to try to fix yourself than it is to actually do the stuff that's going to facilitate your healing. In the same way, when you cut your finger, you don't work really hard to heal your finger. You trust that the healing process is very natural. The same thing here is, it's the paradox of OCD and anxiety recovery is not the amount of work that you have to do externally or willfully. It's the amount of work you need to do internally to be able to drop your resistance, which oftentimes ends up being work on your beliefs, work on your relationship with your emotions, your thoughts, work on from a consciousness level. See, that work is very valuable and very transformative, but the external work of I'm going to go and willfully do all these exposures and I'm going to go do this and I'm going to do this, if done from the wrong place and done with the wrong intentions, can end up working against you and actually prolong this process much longer than it needs to be. So I wanted to talk about that whole idea of the law of reversed effort and the ironic process and talk about these concepts because I think they're often not spoken about. And the assumption is that if you're not getting better, you're being lazy or you're not trying or you're not working. In fact, I tend to believe the opposite. Most people who are really struggling, who are really stuck and have been stuck for a long period of time, it's not really a matter of the lazy or any of that. It's that they're working and putting all their energy on the wrong stuff. And so the adjustment is what then allows someone to be successful. So with that, hope that was helpful for you. Hope it served you, and I wish you a great day and a great week. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Hey there. So if you enjoyed that video, we've linked up a few more videos that we think you'd find helpful as well. And if you have found this helpful, we'd really appreciate your support by liking and subscribing. And if you're looking for help and guidance, please check out restoredminds.com as we have several options for you to get started. See you guys soon.